Tonight we slip into the battered boots of a Renaissance courier, a fearless, fast-talking, often underpaid soul galloping across cobblestone streets and forest trails with ink-stained fingers and a letter that could start a war. You're riding out from Florence at first light, parchment tucked under your jerkin, saddle creaking, and that familiar ache blooming between your shoulder blades. The fog hasn't lifted yet, and already there's a bounty on your head. Just a regular Tuesday. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling chatty, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your horse snorts as you pass beneath the north gate. The guards nod without enthusiasm. One of them is picking at something in his teeth with a fishbone, and you tap your heels to the flanks of your mare, Chiara. She's as tired as you are, but at least she doesn't talk back. Yet. The scroll hidden beneath your cloak bears the Medici seal. Not the decorative one. This is the seal that means, don't stop, don't speak, don't die. You head west along the Via Pisana, dodging puddles from last night's rain. The morning air smells like charcoal and rosemary, and behind you, Florence yawns awake with clattering shutters and 1,000 prayers murmured into chamber pots. By mid-morning, the trees have thickened, the road narrows, and you're not alone anymore. A shadow detaches itself from the brush. Then another. Highwaymen. Probably. Mercenaries. Possibly. You consider shouting a greeting, but think better of it. Instead, you slide your right hand toward the dagger tucked inside your boot. It's not much, but then again, neither are you. They step out, young, ragged, and bored. One carries a pike longer than his attention span. The other's got a grin that makes your teeth itch. He says something about tolls. You say something about sharp blades and short lives. He steps closer. Chiara, bless her hooves, suddenly bolts forward, nearly trampling Pike Boy. You lean into her gallop, heart racing. Behind you, someone curses inventively in Tuscan dialect. You're laughing by the time you reach a ridge overlooking olive groves, your breath rising like smoke in the cool air. Not bad for your first hour on the job. Renaissance Florence, for all its genius and gilded ceilings, is built on messages. Quiet ones passed hand to hand, behind locked doors and beneath altar cloths. You're part of that delicate machine. A ghost on horseback. The kind of person they thank in whispers and forget in daylight. By noon, you pass a tiny chapel. A friar waves from the stone steps. He's barefoot, feeding a goose. You wave back. The goose does not wave. The friar yells that the Pope's nephew was seen in Florence last week, disguised as a cheese merchant, if you can believe it. You cannot. But historians still argue whether that was true. You rest briefly by a creek, splashing your face, checking the scroll. Still dry. You chew on a bit of salted fig cake, gritty with flour, and try not to think about the rumors, how a messenger disappeared on this road last month, and they found his satchel tied to a dead man's leg in a well. Chiara stomps and whinnies. You look up. Something moved in the trees. Just a bird. Probably. You ride on. By mid-afternoon, you reach a cluster of crumbling stones, a way station long abandoned. You dismount and relieve yourself behind a hedge of suspiciously spiky bushes. There's graffiti scratched into one of the stones. A crude drawing of a pope with horns. Beneath it, Francesco was here, 1449. He still owes me 3 florins. The sun starts dipping, red and swollen. You pick up the pace. Your destination is close, a small estate outside Certaldo, where a certain merchant is awaiting a very expensive list of names. People who might die. Or might kill. The air thickens with dust and sage. Somewhere, a lute strums faintly, then abruptly stops. You smell fire. Then blood. Chiara bucks. A figure lies in the road ahead. A man, judging by the boots. No movement. You dismount carefully, creeping closer, one hand on your blade. The scroll tugs at your side like a warning. You lean over the body, then exhale. Just drunk. He groans, rolls over, and mumbles something about a goat. You leave him snoring, muttering, dreaming of goats. At twilight, the estate appears like a shadow unfolding from the hills. Cypress trees flank the road, black against the sky. You knock twice. Wait. A servant peers out. The door opens. You deliver the scroll to a man whose hands are too clean. He doesn't speak. Just nods. He snatches the parchment and closes the door. You are left standing in the dust like an unwanted ghost. Mission complete. Or so you think. You turn to mount Chiara, but a woman in dark velvet stands by your saddle. She's older, eyes sharp as glass, and holding a second scroll. "You'll take this back," she says. "Now." No one else sees it. You want to protest. But she's wearing a dagger and a Medici ring. You take the scroll. She's already walking away. Back on the road. Moon overhead. Crickets chirping like lyres. You mutter to Chiara, "Why is it always me?" She does not respond. You press on, stomach growling. Maybe tomorrow you'll eat something that isn't wrapped in waxed linen or vaguely humming. But tonight, it's just the stars, the trees, and the road unrolling beneath your hooves like a promise. A cold one. Around you, the low hum of distant footsteps fades into a gentle hush. The muffled clinking of silverware, the faint strains of a lute, the soft rustle of silk gowns brushing past marble columns, all grow quieter as the palace settles into the deepest hours of night. You close your eyes, but your senses refuse to quiet completely. You hear the faint tremble of gilded chandeliers swaying above, as if Versailles itself is breathing, alive and restless. The distant call of a night bird echoes through hidden courtyards, its lonely song weaving through the shadows. The scent of wax and lavender lingers in the air, mingling with the faint trace of wood smoke and the ever-present musk of ancient stone. You draw a slow breath, letting it fill your lungs and calm your racing heart. For a moment, you drift, not quite asleep, not quite awake, floating somewhere between the grandeur above and the humble quarters below. You remember the glint of mirrors, the whispered gossip, the impossible demands, and the small kindnesses that make this life bearable. This palace, for all its opulence and tyranny, has become your world. A labyrinth of light and shadow, power and servitude. And beneath it all, you are here, alive, tired, and strangely whole. As the first hints of dawn touch the sky, soft and pale as a whispered promise, you let yourself fall deeper into sleep. Tomorrow will come with its endless orders and challenges. But for now, you are simply here. Breathing. Resting. Dreaming beneath Versailles. You don't even make it halfway back to Florence before the rain starts. It's not a polite drizzle. It's that horizontal, soul-draining kind of downpour that turns roads into soup and cloaks into sponges. Chiara gives you a look that says, "Again? Really?" And you promise her a bag of oats and a full day off, though you both know it's a lie. By the time the city's lantern lights flicker on the horizon, your boots are leaking and your fingers are pruned like raisins. You pass under the gates just before curfew. The guards wave you through, barely. One of them recognizes you and mutters something about messenger boys and their tendency to carry bad luck. You grin like it's a compliment. Florence at night smells like wet stone, fried anchovies, and too many secrets. You take the scroll to your patron's townhouse, an elegant slab of Renaissance wealth with shutters carved like saints. The guards open the door without question. A servant leads you in. You try not to drip on the tapestries. You hand off the scroll to a steward who eyes it like it's hissing. He takes it up the stairs without a word. You wait awkwardly in the atrium, next to a bust of Dante that someone's used to hang a scarf. Eventually, your patron descends, Girolamo Vieri, a merchant with too many rings and not enough eyebrows. He thanks you in that way rich men do when they're thinking about something else. Then, like you're a cat bringing him a mouse, he hands you another assignment. Another scroll. Sealed. Heavier than usual. And a pouch. You'll need to stop at the cartographer's, he says, and deliver this to a Master Sirico in the city. Quietly. You open the pouch just enough to get a sniff. It smells like rotting mint, melted beeswax, and maybe civet musk? Definitely nothing you'd wear as a perfume. You reseal it and nod. He pats your shoulder like you're a family dog who's learned a new trick. Back in the street, Chiara pours the cobblestones impatiently. You tell her you hate this job. She pretends not to hear. The cartographer's shop is tucked behind a fish market, wedged between a barber's stall and a bakery that smells like mercy. Inside, the air is thick with ink and mold. Maps curl like dying leaves across every surface. A man in a smudged smock doesn't look up when you enter. I was told you'd have something for Master Sirico, you say, trying not to breathe too deeply. The man grunts. Hands you a rolled vellum. It's heavy, too heavy for parchment alone. You suspect there's more inside, and you're right. When you shift your grip, you feel something solid. Coins? A blade? You don't ask. You tuck it into your satchel and head back into the street. By now, Florence is simmering with late-night noise, street musicians, cats fighting under balconies, the occasional scream that gets ignored by everyone but the drunkards. You wind through the alleyways toward the northern quarter, where the city grows tighter, darker, meaner. The buildings lean inward like they're sharing secrets you're not meant to hear. You're nearly there when a boy barrels into you from the side. He's maybe 10, barefoot, eyes wide. They took him, he yells, breathless. You blink. Who? My uncle. They grabbed him and shoved him in a cart. I saw it. They had knives. You sigh. This city never runs out of drama. Or orphans. He tugs your cloak. You're a runner, right? You have to help. You should say no. You will say no. But instead, you sigh again and ask, where? He points toward the Arno. Of course. You follow, Chiara trailing behind like she's morally opposed to this whole detour. You reach the riverside in time to see a cart rolling off into the mist. No sign of struggle. Just muddy tracks and a glove on the cobbles. You pick it up. Leather, finely stitched, the Medici crest barely visible under grime. Now it's personal. Or dangerous. Often both. You make your delivery to Master Sirico at an inconspicuous brick house behind a crumbling aqueduct. He opens the door with a face like a thundercloud, accepts the parcel, mutters you're late, and slams the door. Charming. As you turn to leave, a girl in a blue dress catches your eye. She's watching from a second-story window across the lane. Her fingers tap the sill in a rhythm that feels deliberate. Tap tap. Pause. Tap tap tap. You freeze. That's one of the old runner's codes. The kind used when Florence still had open rivalries between messenger guilds. You haven't seen it used in years. You glance up. She nods. Once. Sharply. Then vanishes. You don't know who she is. But you know what the code means. Follow. Quietly. You circle the block and find a side alley. There's a narrow door ajar. You slip inside and find stairs. At the top, a room lit by a single oil lamp. She's there, pulling off a wig. Underneath, short hair, dark eyes, and the calm of someone who could kill you with a spoon. You've got something you don't know you're carrying, she says. You raise an eyebrow. She gestures to your satchel. Not the scroll. The map vellum. The cartographer's been embedding coded diagrams, schematics, alliances, and trade routes hidden in the ink layers. You blink. And this is a problem because... She smiles faintly. Because it also includes the names of Medici spies in Venice. If that falls into the wrong hands... She doesn't finish the sentence. Doesn't have to. You suddenly feel the weight of the map like it's a sack of bricks. She moves closer. You should be careful who you deliver to next. You nod slowly. You've never wanted a nap more in your life. She slips a coin into your palm. On it, a crowned serpent devouring its tail. The old runner's guild symbol. Then she disappears through a trapdoor in the floor, like a magician who's late for a duel. You exit the house into rain and fog and questions. Florence always gives you more than you asked for. But tonight, it's given you a secret you can't afford to keep, and an enemy you haven't met yet. You ride home with a head full of maps, poisons, and someone else's unfinished sentence echoing in your brain. At least Chiara gets her oats. The next morning smells like vinegar and wood smoke, which means you're getting closer to Siena. Chiara's hooves slap against the muddy road, slow and steady, each step echoing up your spine. You try not to think about the way your cloak sticks to your skin, or how the sky looks like it's planning something. The scroll you're carrying now is lighter than the last one, but somehow feels more dangerous. You've been riding since before sunrise, hoping to reach the city by mid-morning. But Siena, for all its lovely towers and dramatic frescoes, is a fortress of suspicion. Especially in these plague-shadowed months. The smell gets stronger as you approach, not plague itself, but fear of it. Someone set out bundles of burned rosemary by the roadside. A line of travelers stands by the city gates, being prodded by guards with iron-tipped poles. No one's being let in fast. Or kindly. Chiara snorts and stomps when you slow her near the checkpoint. One guard gestures you forward with a gloved hand. Another's wearing a mask that looks like a bird's beak, stuffed with lavender, if you had to guess. You hand over your travel letter, still sealed with your patron's wax emblem. The guards look it over. One squints at the seal, then at you. He holds it up to the light like he's expecting it to scream. Then he lowers it and says, flatly, "Do you carry any lemons?" You blink. No. Too bad. They help with the bile, he mutters, and steps aside. Historians still argue whether lemons were truly believed to fend off plague, or whether people just liked how they masked the smell of rot. Either way, you're sorry you left that citrus stand back in Montelupo. Once inside, Siena is a different world. Narrower, paranoid, beautiful. The buildings curve around you like they're leaning in to eavesdrop. Flags hang from upper windows, many blackboarded. Mourning families. No one speaks loudly. Everyone wears herbs or holy medals around their necks. You pass a butcher sharpening his cleaver with obsessive precision, a baker sweeping ash from his front steps while whispering something to himself. And children. Children everywhere. Watching. Always watching. Your destination is a banker's residence on the Piazza del Campo. You wind through twisted alleys to get there. You know you found the place when you see two men in identical cloaks standing guard outside a door with 7 locks. You dismount. They don't speak. You knock. Wait. Knock again. Finally, a servant opens the door and glares like you're tracking mud into the sky. He gestures you into a parlor lined with tapestries depicting heroic naval battles, some of which, if you know your history, absolutely did not happen. The banker is small and round and smells faintly of cloves. He takes the scroll with 2 fingers, like it might bite him. You're about to turn and go when he asks, "You came from Florence, yes?" You hesitate. Yes. He nods slowly. Then you'll need to stay. At least until my physician examines you. I haven't coughed once, you protest. Regrettably, that's not our standard anymore. You're ushered to a side room with a low ceiling and a bowl of water that may or may not be for washing. You sit on a bench, dripping and annoyed, while a man with 6 rings on one hand stares at your pupils and asks if you've had any dreams about toads. You lie and say you've dreamed only of tax ledgers. He seems disappointed. After an hour of staring at the same crack in the plaster ceiling, they let you go. Sort of. Your return message will be ready at dusk, the servant says. Wait nearby. Nearby turns out to be a tavern that serves cold lentils and stale wine. You sit by the fire and try not to eavesdrop on the 2 masons arguing about whether a statue they're working on should have wings. One of them insists the Madonna herself appeared to him and said, "Add wings or else." A musician plays a mournful tune on a viol. A rat steals a bit of your bread. You let it. Time drips by. Just as dusk falls and the piazza starts emptying, a boy delivers a wax-sealed pouch to your table with a wink. No note. No explanation. You recognize the seal. It's the same serpent loop coin the runner girl gave you. Old guild business. You slip it into your satchel. Not the banker's message, but someone else's. You retrieve the banker's scroll an hour later, after submitting to another sniff test by the guards, and finally, blessedly, lead Chiara out through the south gate. Night is falling fast, and the wind carries the scent of cypress and something more, metallic. You ride for an hour before setting up camp just off the main road. It's too dangerous to press farther in the dark. You tether Chiara near a thicket and build a small fire with damp kindling that sputters and hisses like it has opinions. As you chew on the last of your fig cake, you pull out the pouch you were handed at the tavern. It's not just a scroll, it's a note, folded several times and sealed with wax over thread. You crack it open. Inside is a single line, written in a tight, almost angry script. They know about the surgeon's apprentice. You stare at it for a long moment, then fold it back up, slide it into your boot, and stare into the fire until your eyelids betray you. Far off, something howls. Not a wolf. Not exactly. And in your sleep, you dream of toads. You wake up stiff, half frozen, and suspiciously damp. The fire's gone out, and Chiara is glaring at you like this whole camping thing was your idea. Dew coats everything, including the scroll cases and the hem of your cloak, which now weighs as much as a guilty conscience. You don't remember dreaming, which might be worse than dreaming of toads. The road ahead winds through wooded foothills that curl like sleeping animals. There's mist hanging low across the path, and your breath puffs in tiny ghosts as you ride. You pass a shrine to Saint Roch, protector against plague, whose statue looks like it's seen some things, and probably smelled them, too. Someone's hung garlic and an old shoe around his neck. Superstition or last-minute fashion attempt? Hard to say. You're bound for a small abbey nestled near San Gimignano, where you're to deliver the banker's response scroll. It's one of those strange assignments where the destination makes no strategic sense, unless, of course, what's inside the scroll isn't meant to be read by anyone official. You've been doing this long enough to know that sometimes scrolls aren't scrolls at all. Sometimes they're coded lists, or bribes, or a trap meant for whoever tries to open them. The abbey itself is beautiful in a melancholy way, rising out of the mist like something half-remembered. Vines creep up the stone walls, and the bell tower leans slightly to the left, like it's listening in. A monk meets you at the gate. He's bald, barefoot, and carries a small sack of turnips like it's a baby. Without a word, he leads you inside. You're brought to a cloister garden, where a man waits beneath an olive tree. Not a monk, too clean. He's dressed plainly, but his boots are better made than most king's sandals. He takes the scroll, tests its weight, then pockets it like it's lunch. He speaks without looking at you, the surgeon's apprentice. Is she alive? You don't answer right away. Then, depends on which city you're asking about. He doesn't smile, exactly, but there's a twitch at the corner of his mouth. That's fair. He pulls a small wooden box from his coat and hands it to you. Take this to the glassmaker in Florence. No stops. No detours. If it breaks, you don't come back. Inside, you can hear the gentle clink of glass on glass. You try not to sigh too loudly. You remount and leave the abbey, only looking back once. The monk is still there, cradling his turnips, watching you like he knows you'll mess it up. As you ride back toward Florence, the road is eerily quiet. Until you spot the wagon. It's turned sideways in the middle of the trail, wheels askew. A man lies face down beside it. Blood, or something very close to it, pools underneath. You pull up short. Chiara flattens her ears. She doesn't like it either. You dismount slowly. The man doesn't move. There's a shout from the trees. Then two figures step out, one tall and thin, one shorter and stockier. They're dressed like pilgrims, but carry daggers instead of rosaries. You've wandered into an ambush. They want the box. You don't know how they knew you had it. But you do know this: you're outnumbered, out-armed, and in no mood. You pretend to fumble for the box. Instead, you drop a pouch of powdered pepper into the tall one's face. He howls, clutching his eyes. Chiara, bless her unruly heart, charges the short one like she's auditioning for a battlefield. In the chaos, you grab the box, leap onto the saddle, and yell something extremely undignified. You ride hard, dirt spraying behind you, heart pounding like a festival drum. The road blurs past in shades of brown and green. When you finally stop, it's well past midday, and you've put at least 3 miles between you and the screaming. You pull off to the side of the road, behind a crumbling wall, and check the box. It's intact. Inside, 3 vials. Clear, pale blue liquid. Suspended in each are small, thread-like shapes, delicate, almost alive. You're not a physician, but you've heard rumors. Historians still argue whether the so-called aqua vitalis, a liquid believed to carry regenerative properties, was ever more than alchemists' fantasy. But these vials match the descriptions: blue as glacier melt, with something that coils when the light hits it. You rewrap the box and mutter, "No pressure," under your breath. Florence draws closer by late afternoon. The city gate doesn't ask many questions. You slip through with the ease of someone who's done this far too many times. Your delivery point is a modest shop near the Mercato Vecchio. The sign reads Vitreria di Giulio. A cracked glass chalice hangs above the door like a warning. Inside, the light is strange, fractured by hundreds of colored panes and shards. It's like standing inside a kaleidoscope. The glassmaker, Giulio, emerges from the back with a pair of pince-nez perched on his nose and an apron that once might have been white. You hand him the box. He doesn't open it. Just nods and says, "They were looking for you, you know. Yesterday. At the stables." You freeze. Who? The ones who wear blue even when they don't need to. And they asked for the runner with the stupid grin. You try to school your face into something less expressive. "They left a note," he adds. "Said you're invited." Invited where? He shrugs. Didn't say. Just, "Come alone. After dark. Santa Croce." Your stomach sinks. Santa Croce is not a church you want to visit at night. Not unless you have a death wish. Or debts. But if they were looking for you, they're probably expecting an answer. You take your leave, duck into a bakery for the thinnest excuse of bread, and spend the remaining daylight hours in a stable loft above Chiara, trying to look asleep while your mind rewinds every step you've taken since Siena. That night, you make your way to Santa Croce under a sliver moon. The cloisters are silent, cold, and absolutely full of shadows. You enter through a side passage and wait. A voice behind you says, "She's not dead, by the way." You turn. It's the girl from the trapdoor, the one who gave you the coin. She holds a candle and a short blade, though only the candle seems lit. "She's being held near the Arno," she whispers. "The surgeon's apprentice. Someone wants her quiet." Why? They think she knows what's in the vials. You swallow hard. She tosses you a folded map. "You'll need help." And just like that, she's gone again. You step back into the dark, more questions than answers, and a city that's watching you much too closely. You don't sleep that night. Not really. You lie in the hay above Chiara's stall, the map unfolded beside you, trying to memorize every twist of ink in the candlelight. The lines are shaky, rushed, but the marks are clear. A warehouse near the Arno, a strange symbol like an eye inside a wheel, and a single word scrawled along the bottom edge, "Chirurgo." The surgeon. Your mind churns. Historians still argue whether Florence's famed secret physicians were more miracle workers or state-sanctioned torturers. You suspect it depends on whether you were paying them, or being dissected by them. At dawn, the stables stir to life. Chiara snorts awake and sneezes directly onto your boots. You pretend it's a blessing. You slip out before the street vendors finish setting up, heading toward the river with your cloak pulled low. You pass the wool dyers dumping indigo-stained water into the drains, monks with baskets of loaves, a woman shouting at pigeons like they owe her money. No one notices you. The Arno is swollen from last week's rains. It stinks of wet rope and dead fish, but the sound of it, steady and mindless, is a balm for your nerves. You hug the river walk until you find the place from the map. The warehouse is squat and ugly, half sunk into the muddy bank. There are no signs, no open doors, just a heavy-looking hatch in the side wall and a broken lantern hanging from a peg. You circle once, then again, until you find a loose grate near the rear, just big enough for someone desperate. Which, to be fair, you now qualify as. You squeeze in, boots scraping against the slick stone. It smells like vinegar, herbs, and something unmistakably metallic. Inside, it's darker than it should be. There's a low hum, like bees, if bees ever whispered secrets. You creep down a narrow hall, past shelves of glass containers and bundles of dried something or other. At one point, you swear a jar of eyeballs is watching you. Then, voices. You stop. 2 men. One calm, older. One younger, agitated. She was awake again last night, the younger says. We can't keep her in that state. She has to remain lucid, the older replies. The memory only surfaces when she dreams. You press your ear to the wall. The plaster is damp, warm. Your heart is doing its best impression of a cavalry charge. She's a risk, the younger one insists. If she escapes. She won't, says the elder. No one knows she's here. You smile to yourself. Someone really should update that memo. A door creaks. Footsteps retreat. You give it 10 heartbeats, then push open the door as silently as you can. The girl is slumped in a chair, wrists bound with silk cords. A small bowl of something herbal steams on the table beside her. She blinks up at you, dazed. You're the runner, she murmurs. You nod. And you're the apprentice everyone keeps not killing. Lucky me, she says, and coughs. They think I remember something. Something about what my master discovered. You start untying her. Do you? She closes her eyes. Not yet. Of course. You get her onto her feet just as a crash sounds from the far hall. Your luck, like your cloak, is running thin. You half carry her down the passage you came in through. She's weak, but coherent enough to mutter directions. Not that way, the walls are hollow, and to point out a back stair that wasn't on your map. You burst out into the grey light of morning and almost run head first into a fruit vendor. Excuse us, you mutter. He blinks at you. Ah, Tuesday. Chiara, when you reach her, whinnies like she's been expecting this exact level of chaos. You help the apprentice up behind you and kick off just as someone in a blue doublet rounds the corner. You don't wait to see his face. You ride until the city thins behind you and the hills start to rise. The apprentice's head rests against your back, and her breath comes ragged. You finally stop in a grove of olive trees. She slides off and sits on the grass, eyes half closed. They'll come looking, she says. I'd be disappointed if they didn't. She reaches into her tunic and pulls out a pendant. Inside, there's a piece of parchment no bigger than your thumbnail. On it, a drawing. A spiral, made of numbers. They thought I didn't know I had this, she says. But I remember. Something. My master said it was the ratio. The real one. You stare at it. Not because you understand it. Math was never your strong suit. But because it feels old. Dangerous. Historians still argue whether Fibonacci's true spiral sequence was ever altered to confuse rival mathematicians. Or governments. You wouldn't know. But people seem to want this bad enough to kill over it. We need to get it out of Florence, she says. To Bologna. The university there, they'll protect it. You raise a brow. And us? She shrugs. That part's fuzzy. Of course it is. You hide the parchment inside your satchel, deep behind the vials. One mystery inside another. That night, you take shelter in a crumbling barn halfway to Fiesole. The stars above are sharp and bright, like they've been freshly polished. The apprentice falls asleep quickly, exhaustion finally catching up. You lie awake for a long while, listening to the wind push through the broken boards. Somewhere out there, a city is spinning stories about you. A surgeon has realized his cage is empty. And someone with a coin-shaped seal is probably wondering why they ever trusted a sleep-deprived messenger with plague immunity and a questionable sense of self-preservation. But you're still breathing. Still running. And if you keep moving, maybe, just maybe, you'll live long enough to find out what all of this really means. Or you'll get turned into a tapestry. Which, to be honest, might not be the worst way to go. You wake to the sound of chewing. Not your own. Chiara has managed to nose her way into your satchel and is halfway through what used to be a fig-stuffed bread roll. You pull it away just in time to save the parchment with the spiral, now flecked with crumbs and very faintly horse-scented. The apprentice groans and sits up, wincing. Her name, you learn, is Sophia. She's quiet, sharp-eyed, and moves like she's always bracing for someone to grab her. Breakfast is a few nuts, one unchewed fig, and a sip of water each. You're already behind schedule, and Bologna is 2 days away by fast horse. 3 if Chiara insists on stopping for every particularly interesting bush. The road north bends past fields scorched from the last harvest burn. The smell lingers, acrid and sweet. You spot a line of pilgrims heading south, one dressed entirely in yellow. Sophia tenses. They're not just pilgrims, she mutters. Those robes, they're from the Campagna del Cerchio. The circle. You frown. You've heard whispers of them. Historians still argue whether the Campagna was a religious offshoot, a secret guild of mathematicians, or just a bunch of wine-drunk heretics who liked robes and riddles. But one thing's consistent, they guard old knowledge with terrifying loyalty. And now they're walking straight past you. You keep your head low, adjusting your cloak. One of the robed men glances at you too long, and you force a cough, nothing suspicious, just a nice, dramatic consumption-sounding hack. They veer wide. Sophia whispers, they know about the sequence. They have their own version, older, I think. My master was trying to compare the two. This day just keeps getting better. You press on, taking a narrow back road that hugs the hillside. A small shrine to Saint Dymphna is tucked into the cliff wall, covered in tiny notes. Someone's left a painted pebble with an eye on it. You both pretend not to see it. By mid-morning, the heat rises like bad news. You pause at a stream, where Sophia soaks her scarf and you refill the water skin. Chiara plunges her face in and comes up with a triumphant snort, flinging water all over your boots. You set off again, only to find the road ahead blocked. A cart has overturned, spilling barrels of olives across the path. Several townsfolk are attempting to corral the runaway cargo, shouting in 3 different dialects and blaming each other equally. You slow Chiara and dismount to help, because moving olives is marginally better than drawing attention. Sophia disappears behind a hedge, keeping watch. One of the townsmen, a round-faced man with arms like wine casks, eyes you up and down. You from Florence? He asks. Briefly, you answer, rolling a barrel back toward the wagon. We heard trouble there. Some kind of riot near the Arno. Word is the Medici's hired hands out in full. You nod like you hadn't just escaped that exact trouble 2 nights ago. Got family up north? He asks. Something like that. He grins. Well, tell him not to put olives on fish. Bolognese folk are strange. You smile, help heave the last barrel upright, and accept a handful of dried figs in return. Not a bad exchange. As you ride away, Sophia rejoins you, now wearing a stolen hat and a completely different expression. They're following us, she says quietly. You glance back. The olive cart is being reloaded, the townspeople distracted. But at the edge of the trees, a shape in yellow. Standing very still. The hat was a good call. You ride faster now. The trees blur into walls of green, and your mind jumps ahead. Where to sleep, how to keep the scrolls dry if it rains, whether Sophia's pendant is visible from a distance. She tucks it deeper into her tunic. By late afternoon, you reach a crossroads with a carved stone finger pointing toward Bologna. There's also an inn here, an old one, sunken into the hillside. Its sign so weather-worn it just reads _EL and _AKE. Inside, it smells like rosemary and yesterday's soup. A tired-looking man tends the fire. You get a room under the name Giovanni, because it's boring, and boring might keep you alive. Sophia collapses onto the cot with the dramatic grace of someone who absolutely deserves to sleep for a month. You close the shutters, prop your satchel beneath the headboard, and finally, breathe. You're halfway between panic and hunger when there's a knock at the door. You freeze. Another knock. Slower this time. You open it just a crack. It's the girl again. The one from the trapdoor. She slips inside like a shadow and says only, "They're already in Bologna." You blink. Who is? The circle. The ones chasing you. How? She smiles without humor. You weren't the only one they followed. You just got further. She hands you another map. This one isn't ink, it's charcoal, smudged and coded in symbols you don't recognize. Sophia sits up, eyes narrowed. You again. The girl nods. You've seen this before. Sophia takes the map, running her fingers over it. This is my master's cipher. He used it to encode patient notes and theories. And now, says the girl, they're going to use it to find the place he hid the prototype. You glance between them. What prototype? They both answer at once. The lens. Oh no. You've heard rumors of it. A perfectly polished lens that reveals not just distance, but layers, hidden texts, secret inks, flaws in walls and words. Some say Da Vinci himself tried to build one. Others say it never worked, just made the user go slowly mad. Sophia nods solemnly. He finished it. Before they came. Before he disappeared. The girl steps to the window, peering through the shutters. Someone will be here by nightfall, she says. You need to be gone before then. You ask the obvious. Why are you helping us? She gives you a long look. Because the lens doesn't belong to them. And because he was my brother. You don't argue. Just gather the scrolls, the pendant, the vials, the cursed map, and your ever-dwindling supply of patience. Sophia's already up and pulling her boots on. Chiara, when you get to her, looks at you like, again? But she doesn't argue. You ride out under cover of dark, the stars veiled by thick cloud. The path ahead turns stony, and every hoofbeat echoes like a drumbeat. Somewhere behind you, you swear you hear a voice call out. And for a moment, you could swear the spiral in your satchel shifts. The next day dawns behind a gauzy curtain of fog, so thick it clings to your skin like wet linen. The world feels muffled, reduced to the soft thunk of Chiara's hooves on the dirt path and the occasional snort of protest from her hay-craving nostrils. Sophia sits behind you, wrapped in a borrowed cloak, the pendant tucked safely beneath 3 layers of wool and paranoia. You're still a half day from Bologna, winding through the Apennine foothills on a trail that barely deserves the name. Rocks shift underfoot. A bird cries out once, then nothing. Even the forest seems to be holding its breath. Up ahead, the path narrows into a pass. Steep cliffs flank either side. It would be beautiful if it didn't feel like such an obvious place to die. You slow Chiara and mutter, "Well, this isn't ominous at all." Sophia taps your shoulder and points. 3 figures. Hooded. Standing at the crest of the pass. They don't move. "Compania," she whispers. The one in the middle lifts a hand, palm open, like a greeting. Or a warning. You turn Chiara hard into the trees, ignoring her complaints. Branches slap at your face. Behind you, shouts rise, and suddenly the stillness is gone, splintered by pursuit. They don't gallop. They glide. Yellow robes flash between trunks, and at least one is definitely carrying something that glints in the fog. You duck low, pulling Chiara through a narrow stream, half sliding down a ravine slick with moss and mud. Sophia clings on, muttering under her breath something that might be a prayer or a recipe. You lose them, finally, by veering under a low stone bridge and staying there, pressed flat against damp rock while the robes pass silently overhead. One of them pauses, listens, then moves on. You don't breathe until you can't hear anything but the drip of water. Sophia looks at you. They're getting closer. You nod. And more theatrical. You climb out the far side and follow the stream east until the trees thin. There, in the distance, rise the towers of Bologna, leaning, narrow, and crooked like fingers raised in warning. The city feels more serious than Florence. Less flamboyant, more wary. But perhaps that's just your nerves talking. You wait until dusk to approach the gates. There's a long line of travelers, merchants, and students. A group of German scholars are arguing with a porter about whether they can bring in a goat. The goat appears unconvinced either way. You take the moment to shuffle through the line unnoticed. Your fake name this time is Luigi, and Sophia becomes your very uninterested cousin from Parma. The gate guards barely glance up. Inside, the city hums with the slow burn of evening. Lamps are being lit by boys with long poles, and a distant bell tolls the hour. The streets here are narrower, the buildings more tightly packed, and every second corner hosts a bookshop or a printer. You pass one window where a man is writing backward with a quill and muttering to himself. Sophia points. They call him the Mirror Scholar. He claims it protects his thoughts from theft. Historians still argue whether mirror writing was ever actually effective as a security measure or just a way for eccentric men to seem mysterious at parties. You find lodging near the university, an aging townhouse run by an old woman with one eyebrow and a surprising number of pet chickens. She shows you to a room with 2 beds, 3 leaks, and exactly 1 unbroken chair. You're too tired to care. You set the pendant on the nightstand, beside a candle and a piece of stale bread. Sophia begins sifting through the charcoal map again, sketching parts of it into her journal. This symbol, she says, tapping the spiral, keeps appearing in my master's notes. It's always next to the phrase della vision profonda. The deep vision. You frown. Sounds like a bad art gallery. She chuckles. It's the lens. He believed it could pierce through illusions, physical and otherwise. Outside, thunder grumbles faintly. You glance out the window to see clouds thickening above the rooftops. You light another candle and try to make sense of the cipher. Some of the marks are clearly topographic, little hills, perhaps, or buildings. One looks like a lopsided hourglass. I think, you say, this is a map, but not of terrain. Sophia leans closer. Of a building. You nod. Or maybe a collection. Like vaults. She looks at you with that mix of dread and fascination that has become her default setting. Then it's in the university. Underground. Of course it is. The University of Bologna is one of the oldest in Europe, and historians still debate whether its famed library basement was ever repurposed during the Renaissance as a storage vault for banned manuscripts, failed experiments, or noble family skeletons, literal or otherwise. You sneak out after midnight. The streets are slick from early rain, glistening under moonlight. You pass a bakery with a sleeping cat on the sill, a tavern still half full of arguing poets, and 2 masked lovers who do not notice you at all. The university gates are locked, naturally, but Sophia knows a student trick, something involving a loose window grate and a very specific sequence of bricks, and soon you're creeping through the dark halls of learning, chased by echoes and the faint scent of ink. You find the library easily enough. It's vast, shadowy, and smells like dust, wax, and ambition. The basement stairs are roped off, which, obviously, means you go down them. Sophia carries the candle. You hold the satchel tight. The stairs spiral, uneven and steep, and the air grows colder as you descend. At the bottom, silence. And then a door. Iron-bound. Old. Its handle is shaped like an open eye. You don't even hesitate anymore. Inside is a chamber lined with alcoves. Scrolls. Tools. Diagrams. One wall is carved with notations, measurements, theories, bits of Latin and Greek. A single desk stands in the center, and on it, a small wooden box. Sophia's hands tremble as she opens it. Inside, the lens. It's not much to look at, just a curved glass, set in brass. But it hums faintly when she lifts it, like it knows it's been found. She peers through it and gasps. What do you see? She lowers it, eyes wide. Everything. The hidden writing. The true ink. You take it next, raising it slowly to your eye. And there, etched into the library wall in ink that glows under the lens, is a new spiral. Beneath it, a date, tomorrow. Morning finds you in a daze. Not from lack of sleep, though let's be honest, that didn't help, but from the dizzying feeling that you're finally holding the truth in your hands, and it's heavier than you thought. The lens sits between you and Sophia on the wobbly table, wrapped in a cloth napkin that smells vaguely like roast garlic. You both stare at it like it might do something dramatic. So, you say slowly, "It shows hidden ink." She nods. "And more. I think it sees layers. Not just pigment, but intention." You blink. "Okay, what?" "Like, it shows what someone meant to write. Their edits, their hesitation. Even if they scraped the parchment clean." You sit back, overwhelmed. So, not just a better magnifying glass. It's a confession catcher. She grins, for once without sadness. "Exactly." Historians still argue whether such a lens ever existed, or if descriptions of it were romanticized by later alchemists desperate to attribute divine properties to simple optics. But here it is, warm in your palm. You try it again. The lens magnifies slightly, distorting the candle flame into a tiny, dancing sun. But when you tilt it toward the spiral map, there, more lines. A second set of marks, etched like ghost writing beneath the charcoal. You trace them with your finger. A symbol. A door. And beneath it, another spiral, narrower and tighter, like a coil ready to spring. Sophia leans closer. "That's not in my copy. This is a second layer of the map. Hidden." Chiara chooses that moment to knock over a chair with her tail. Subtle. You move fast, roll up the map, hide the lens, and toss a stool bag over the rest just as someone knocks on the inn's main door. The innkeeper shuffles toward it. You press your ear to the floorboards above. Voices. Calm. Polite. Too polite. "Good morning," says a man. "We're looking for a traveler. Goes by many names. Travels with a horse and a girl." The innkeeper chuckles. "You've just described half of Bologna." The man does not chuckle back. "This one's carrying something. A stolen artifact. A spiral, perhaps." Sophia's face drains of color. You mouth the word, "circle." She nods. You grab the lens, the map, the satchel, and Chiara's reins. "Back exit," you hiss. There isn't one. At least, not officially. But one does exist in the form of a narrow laundry chute used to discard dirty bedding. It smells like old socks and regret. You stuff the satchel through first, followed by Sophia, then coax Chiara into the courtyard before dropping in behind them with a muffled grunt. Outside, Bologna is waking up, bread carts, news criers, and the distant clatter of university bells. You melt into the crowd, keeping your head low. The lens now rides against your chest, tucked inside a spare glove. You whisper, Where does the hidden spiral point? Sophia unfurls the enhanced map. It's not pointing to a place. It's pointing to a time. That gets your full attention. A time. She nods. Tonight. At the amphitheater ruins. Of course it is. The ruins lie just outside the city, half swallowed by ivy and repurposed by university students for everything from illegal duels to very earnest poetry readings. But beneath the old stage, if the lens is telling the truth, something else waits. You find shelter in an old scriptorium now functioning as a storage room. You hole up there until dark, surrounded by broken shelves and forgotten scrolls. Sophia reads aloud from her master's notes, now completely legible with the lens. He believed the lens came from a much older source, she says. Something pre-Roman. Maybe even Etruscan. You raise an eyebrow. So, not Da Vinci. Da Vinci heard about it. Tried to recreate it. Failed. Do we know why? She points to a smudged note. The mind must be trained before the eye is altered. Otherwise, what it reveals will drive the user to obsession. Cool. That's very reassuring. You reach for a crust of bread and pretend your hands aren't shaking. The spiral keeps appearing in your mind, tightening, coiling. That night, you approach the amphitheater by moonlight. The clouds part in dramatic, utterly unhelpful timing. Everything is too visible. The ruins loom like broken teeth in the earth. Grass chokes the old seats. A single arch stands stubbornly at one end. You move quickly. Sophia uses the lens like a compass, holding it to the stonework. Glyphs appear. Hidden messages. One points toward a collapsed stairwell. You pry away loose rocks until you find a hollow beneath. Just wide enough to squeeze through. You glance back. No sign of pursuit. For now. After you, you mutter. Sophia slides in first. You follow, landing hard on packed dirt and spiderwebs. A tunnel curves downward. You light a lantern. The air smells of limestone and thyme. The passage narrows. The silence deepens. At last, the tunnel ends in a small, circular chamber. The walls are carved with spirals. Dozens of them. Some simple. Others intricate beyond belief. In the center of the room stands a pedestal. On it, a mirror. No, glass. But polished like mercury, rippling faintly as if aware of your arrival. Sophia lifts the lens to her eye. Then gasps. It's not a mirror, she whispers. It's a gateway. Or a message. I can't tell. You take the lens, and this time you see it. A figure. Hooded. Holding a spiral. Then it's gone. The glass clears. In its place is a single phrase, only visible through the lens. Not the first. Not the last. And beneath that, coordinates. But not in any system you recognize. You look at Sophia. What does it mean? She steps back, stunned. The lens is only part one. There's more. This was a drop point. For what? For knowledge. Messages sent forward. Left for the right eyes. You're suddenly aware that everything you thought was important might be a breadcrumb. The spiral. The prototype. Even the lens. And someone, somewhere, has left another clue. Behind you, a noise. Stone shifting. A whisper. Then, light. A shaft of it slicing into the chamber from a new passage. Someone has found you. Sophia grabs your arm. We run. Now. You flee through the narrow exit, lungs burning, the spiral map in one hand, the lens in the other. Behind you, voices rise. Not just the circle. Others. And the spiral pulses. Like it's waking up. The night air slaps you awake as you burst from the tunnel's mouth, lungs craving breath like a drowning man finally tasting water, fresh, bitter, alive. Sophia stumbles beside you, clutching the lens, her eyes wide, flickering with the strange light only something ancient and unknown can ignite. Behind you, the voices echo, no longer just polite threats, but something sharper, closer. The steps of multiple pursuers clatter against stone and earth. Your heart pounds like a drum signaling war. Chiara is waiting, restless and snorting, beneath a tangled oak. You jump on, Sophia scrambling up behind you, and with a crack of your heels, she bolts down the hillside trail, barely wide enough for her hooves. The horseshoe strikes pound a frantic rhythm in your ears. The trees blur, shadows stretching like the claws of night itself. Somewhere above, an owl hoots, an eerie witness to your flight. You glance back. Torches flicker in the distance, a ragged band closing in with sickening determination. The circle's gotten desperate, Sophia gasps. They must think we've uncovered too much. Or maybe, you say, we have. There's a sharp crack. A branch snaps underfoot, betraying your path. You swerve hard, Chiara nearly losing footing on the slick mud. The messenger's life is not made for graceful retreats. Your mind races. The spiral map, the lens, the cryptic message, not the first. Not the last. What did it mean? Were there others like you, couriers through time and shadow, carrying secrets older than Florence's grandest palazzi? Historians still argue whether Renaissance Florence had a secret network of messengers who could read hidden codes invisible to all but the initiated, or if such stories are romantic fabrications spun by later spy thrillers. Either way, you're part of that myth now. The trail splits, a fork veiled in fog. You hesitate, then take the left path, toward the river. Water means speed, maybe a boat, maybe a bridge. The pursuers are not far behind. You reach the Arno's edge where a small rowboat rocks gently against a rotting pier. Sophia fumbles with the ropes. The old boatman eyes you suspiciously but says nothing as you push off into the cold embrace of the river. The current pulls you downstream, and the torches become pinpricks of light swallowed by mist. Your hands shake as you unwrap the lens, peering through it once more. The map's secret lines glow faintly beneath the glass, the spirals spiraling, guiding you. The river banks are ghostly, deserted. Yet you sense eyes watching from shadowed doorways and alleyways. Sophia whispers, "There's more here, below the city." Another message hidden beneath the basilica. You squint at the map. A symbol of a cross entwined with a spiral. The Basilica of San Miniato al Monte, perched high on the hill, is famous for its green and white marble and cryptic mosaics. But its crypt has long whispered legends of hidden relics and secret chambers. You know you have no choice but to go there. At dawn, you slip ashore, wet and chilled. The city stirs, unaware of your desperate quest threading through its ancient veins. You duck into a side alley, pulling your hood tight. The basilica rises before you, serene and unyielding in the early light. Inside, the scent of incense and stone is almost comforting. The crypt's entrance is behind an iron gate, locked but not impassable. Sophia's skills with a small dagger and patient fingers earn you entry. The air is damp and thick, echoing with your quiet footsteps. The walls here are decorated with mosaics of saints and spirals intertwined in a dance of light and shadow. You hold the lens up, certain the ancient glass will reveal the hidden. And it does. Beneath the saints' halos, faint writing shimmers, lines of a poem, a prayer, or a code. Sophia reads aloud, her voice barely a whisper. Within the spiral's heart, the light waits for those who see beyond the veil. You glance around, feeling the weight of unseen eyes, past and present. Historians still debate whether these mosaics were designed purely for devotion or encoded with secret knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations, possibly Etruscan or even older. You realize your role as messenger is no accident. You carry more than words. You carry history's breath, fragile and flickering. A sudden noise interrupts. Footsteps above. The circle again. You find a narrow passage leading deeper, spiraling down into darkness. You and Sophia exchange a glance. This is it. Together, you descend. You and Sophia creep down the winding stone stairs, each step echoing softly in the cool, damp air, a rhythmic heartbeat guiding you deeper into the basilica's hidden underworld. The scent of must and old earth fills your nostrils, a stark contrast to the incense above. The lens glows faintly in your hand, its soft hum syncing with the pulse of your racing heart. The spiral maps etched faintly on the walls grow more intricate as you descend, intertwining with ancient symbols you don't recognize, some resembling stars, others twisted vines. Sophia traces them reverently, whispering theories about forgotten languages and lost wisdom. Some scholars believe these carvings are remnants of pre-Christian rituals absorbed into Christian symbolism, she murmurs. Historians still argue whether these were protective signs or coded messages left by secret societies. You nod, trying to steady your breathing. The weight of history presses on your shoulders, but you push forward. At the bottom of the stairs, a small chamber opens up, barely lit by a flickering lantern you placed moments ago. The walls here are covered with spirals and glyphs that shimmer when viewed through the lens. Your eyes catch on a peculiar inscription carved into the stone floor, a spiral enclosing a small, perfectly round hole. Sophia kneels to examine it. This must be some kind of keyhole or mechanism. You reach into your satchel and pull out the brass lens holder. Could it fit? With a trembling hand, you place the lens into the hole. It clicks softly, and suddenly, a section of the wall slides inward, revealing a narrow passage cloaked in darkness beyond. You glance at Sophia, whose face is lit with awe and trepidation. After you. Together, you step through the hidden doorway. The air feels charged, as if you've crossed a threshold not just in space but in time. The passage opens into a vast chamber lined with shelves, filled with scrolls, manuscripts, and strange artifacts, some wrapped in cloth, others sealed in glass cases. This must be the legendary vault your master hinted at, the place where knowledge was guarded, hidden from prying eyes. You approach a table cluttered with documents. One parchment, yellowed with age, catches your eye. It's covered in spiral diagrams and annotations written in a mixture of Latin and an unknown script. Sophia studies it carefully. This seems to be the manifesto of the Circle, a secret society of scholars and messengers dedicated to preserving forbidden knowledge. You lean in. The manuscript speaks of keepers of the spiral, charged with passing messages through time using the lens and coded maps. So, the spiral isn't just a symbol, you say. It's a protocol, a language for those who understand. Sophia nods. And we're part of it. Suddenly, a low rumble shakes the chamber. Dust falls from the ceiling. You hear distant shouts echoing through the tunnels. They've found us, you whisper. You grab as many documents as you can, stuffing them into your satchel, while Sophia carefully wraps the lens. You both dart toward the hidden passage, retracing your steps. As you ascend, the tunnel begins to collapse behind you, stones crashing and dust swirling. You sprint, heart pounding, until you burst through the secret door into the crypt again, gasping for breath. The basilica's bells chime the hour, their solemn tones ringing through the morning air. Outside, you mount Chiara and urge her forward. The spiral map burns in your mind, its mysteries still unfolding, its dangers far from over. Historians still debate the true purpose of secret societies like the Circle and their influence on Renaissance politics and science. But one thing is clear. Knowledge is power, and some secrets refuse to stay buried. You ride hard, aware that every step forward pulls you deeper into a world of shadows and spirals where the line between friend and foe blurs with every turn. And the lens? It hums quietly against your chest, a beacon calling you onward. The city of Florence wakes slowly as you approach the outskirts, the first light glinting off red-tiled roofs and the majestic dome of the Duomo piercing the morning sky like a gleaming sentinel. The air smells of fresh bread and river mist, a stark contrast to the claustrophobic tunnels you've just escaped. Chiara's hoofs clip against cobblestones as you navigate narrow alleys, Sophia beside you, eyes still wide with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. The satchel bulges with stolen secrets and fragile truths. You pause briefly in the Piazza della Signoria, where marble statues stand watch, frozen in heroic poses. A street vendor hawks oranges, their bright scent cutting through the city's bustle. You lean close to Sophia, whispering, "This city hides more than just art and power struggles, huh?" She smirks. Florence is a living labyrinth. Every corner holds a story, every shadow a secret. Historians still argue whether the Medici family's patronage was purely altruistic or a calculated move to control knowledge and art for political dominance. Either way, their influence looms large, shaping the very streets beneath your feet. You clutch the lens tightly, aware that this fragile piece of glass has the power to unravel centuries of silence. But it's also a beacon, attracting dangerous eyes. Sophia pulls out the spiral map again, tracing the lines with her finger. There's a safe house nearby. A scholar who can help us decode the next layer. You nod, trusting her instincts. You both know the dance. Move fast, stay hidden, trust few. The safe house is a modest workshop tucked behind a bookshop, filled with parchment scraps, ink pots, and dusty tomes. An old man greets you, eyes sharp despite his age. He studies the lens and map, nodding slowly. You've come far, but the spiral's heart is deeper still. He explains that the lens is part of a larger mechanism, one that requires several components scattered across Florence, each hidden within the city's art and architecture. To unlock the full message, you must follow the spiral through frescoes, sculptures, and secret inscriptions. You realize your quest is less a journey through time and more a puzzle etched into the city itself, a coded path left by those who feared their knowledge would be lost. The old man warns, the circle is not the only one searching. Others seek to use the spiral's power for darker ends. You swallow hard, feeling the weight of your mission. The lens hums softly, as if urging you onward. As you leave the workshop, the streets buzz with merchants, artists, and scholars. Children chase each other past fountains, and somewhere, a lute plays a haunting melody. You can't help but smile. Despite the danger, despite the shadows, Florence breathes life into your weary bones. You pocket the map and lens, ready to chase the spiral's next secret. And somewhere in the distance, a crow caws, an ominous reminder that you're never truly alone in this city of secrets. You navigate the twisting alleys of Florence with a practiced ease, the satchel weighing heavier with each secret you carry. The lens tucked close to your heart hums quietly, as if alive, guiding you like a silent compass through the city's tangled veins. The sun climbs higher, casting long shadows over frescoed walls and bustling marketplaces. You pause at the Church of Santa Croce, its soaring arches adorned with frescoes that depict saints and sinners in vibrant colors that seem to pulse with hidden meaning. Sophia steps forward, lens in hand, focusing on a fresco of a saint clutching a spiraled staff. Through the glass, the painted lines shift and reveal faint, previously invisible inscriptions, tiny symbols nested in the folds of fabric and the saint's halo. "Look," Sophia whispers. "The spiral continues here. It's a breadcrumb." You lean in, the morning breeze cooling the sweat on your brow. This game of shadows and light, hidden messages and secret maps, feels like a dance choreographed centuries ago, just for you. Historians still debate whether Renaissance artists like Giotto intentionally hid esoteric symbols in their work or if modern eyes simply read too much into the beauty. You trace the fresco's hidden script with your finger, feeling a chill of connection, as if the saint's painted gaze knows your quest, your fears, your purpose. Moving deeper into the church, you find a small, almost hidden chapel. Its stone altar is engraved with a spiral pattern that matches the symbol on your map. You reach out, pressing the lens against the stone. The spiral glows softly, and a section of the altar slides open, revealing a narrow compartment. Inside lies a small, intricately carved box, its surface a labyrinth of spirals and stars. You open it carefully, revealing a delicate mechanical device, gears spinning slowly despite its age. Sophia examines it, eyes wide. An astrolabe? But, with unusual modifications. You realize this isn't just an instrument for the stars, it's a key, part of the spiral's mechanism. The quiet creak of footsteps snaps you back to reality. From the shadows emerges a man dressed in dark robes, eyes sharp and calculating. He steps forward, voice low and smooth. "I see you found what was meant to remain hidden." Your hand instinctively moves to the dagger at your belt. He smiles thinly. "The circle is not alone. There are others who understand the power of the spiral, and are willing to kill to control it." Sophia tightens her grip on the lens, stepping protectively beside you. You weigh your options: the mechanical key, the man's threat, the spiraling path ahead. Sometimes, you think, history isn't about the past. It's about the choices you make when all eyes are watching. And the spiral never stops turning. You tighten your grip on the mechanical device, feeling its intricate gears hum faintly beneath your fingers as if alive, a heartbeat encoded in brass and mystery. The man's shadow looms across the chapel, but his eyes flicker with curiosity, perhaps respect, rather than immediate violence. "Who are you?" you ask, voice steady despite the adrenaline prickling your skin. "A seeker," he replies smoothly. "One who recognizes the spiral's true power." You narrow your eyes, recalling tales whispered among messengers, about rogue factions exploiting Florence's secrets for their own ends. Historians still argue whether such factions operated openly or lurked beneath the city's veneer like ghosts. Sophia steps forward, holding the lens like a shield. "We don't want conflict, but we won't let the spiral fall into the wrong hands." The man nods, slowly lowering his hands. "Perhaps we share a purpose, then." You exchange wary glances, the fragile truce hanging in the air like a tightrope stretched over a chasm. He introduces himself as Lorenzo, a scholar banished from the circle for his radical ideas. He believes the spiral is not just a code, but a map to a lost knowledge, a power capable of reshaping Florence's fate. You digest his words, the weight of possibility settling in. The spiral might unlock more than secrets, it might rewrite history itself. Lorenzo offers an uneasy alliance. He knows the city's underbelly, the hidden roots and forgotten chambers that could help you both. As you move through Florence's labyrinthine streets together, he shares tales of forgotten alchemists and secret guilds, weaving a tapestry of intrigue and ambition. You pass beneath the Ponte Vecchio, watching merchants set up stalls, unaware that their city pulses with conspiracies beneath their feet. Historians still debate whether Renaissance Florence was a cradle of enlightenment or a cauldron of clandestine power struggles. Maybe it was both. Lorenzo leads you to a hidden workshop where ancient devices hum softly, gears spinning in time with your pounding heart. You fit the mechanical key into a larger contraption, a massive orrery depicting planets, stars, and swirling spirals. The lens amplifies the inscriptions, revealing coordinates pointing to the Medici family's private chapel. Your mission sharpens into focus: unravel the spiral's final secret, buried deep within Florence's most guarded sanctum. As twilight descends, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, you prepare for what lies ahead, the ultimate message, the final test. And somewhere in the distance, the city's bells toll, a reminder that history waits for no one. The fading light casts long shadows as you and Lorenzo slip through the labyrinthine passages beneath the Medici Palace. The air here is heavy with centuries of whispered secrets and power plays. Every stone seems to pulse with history's breath. You clutch the lens tightly, its hum growing stronger, almost like a heartbeat syncing with your own. The hidden corridors are lined with frescoes of mythic scenes, spirals woven into the fabric of creation and destruction, life and death. Each brushstroke seems alive, shimmering under the lens's glow. Lorenzo whispers, the Medici believed they controlled not just Florence, but the very flow of knowledge, and through it, time itself. Historians still argue whether the Medici's influence extended beyond politics into secret sciences, alchemy, and early forms of espionage. Your journey has brought you face to face with those blurred lines. At last, you reach a heavy oak door inlaid with bronze spirals. Beyond it lies the private chapel, its air thick with incense and mystery. You press the lens against the door's center, the mechanical key clicking into place. Slowly, the door swings open, revealing an altar adorned with spiral carvings and cryptic symbols glowing faintly. In the center rests a small, ancient tome, its leather cover embossed with the spiral emblem. You approach, heart pounding. The lens reveals the text inside, a manifesto, a prophecy, and a guide, meant only for the true keepers of the spiral. You understand now, this is no ordinary message. It's a call to guardianship, a challenge to protect knowledge that could change the course of history. Outside, distant footsteps echo again. The circle has found you. Lorenzo grips your arm. We have a choice. Protect the spiral's secret or risk letting it fall into dangerous hands. You glance at the tome, then at Sophia and Lorenzo. This quest has become more than a mission. It's a legacy. As you make your decision, the chamber seems to hold its breath. The spiral's dance reaches its crescendo. The decision weighs on you like the heavy leather of the ancient tome cradled in your hands. Every breath feels slower, deeper, as if the very air in this hidden chapel thickens, inviting you to step fully into the role fate carved out long ago. The lenses faint hum pulses with quiet insistence, like a lullaby whispered through centuries. You glance at Sophia and Lorenzo, their faces lit by the soft glow of the spiral inscriptions. They mirror your exhaustion, hope, and that same stubborn spark, the refusal to let darkness claim what's been guarded for generations. Outside, the muffled sounds of pursuit grow louder, a reminder that time isn't just a circle but a fragile thread ready to snap. You know the path forward demands trust, courage, and perhaps sacrifice. You carefully close the tome, sliding it into your satchel. The spiral's secret is no longer just a mystery. It's your charge. The three of you move swiftly, retracing your steps through the twisting corridors, the weight of knowledge heavy but somehow freeing. The lens's glow dims as you emerge into the cool night air, stars twinkling like scattered fragments of the spiral above. Historians still debate the true origin and purpose of the spiral motif. Was it a mystical symbol, a secret code, or simply an artistic flourish? Now, you understand it as all three, woven into the fabric of Florence's soul. You mount Chiara, feeling the steady warmth beneath you as Sophia settles beside you and Lorenzo follows on foot. As you ride away from the palace, the city's nocturnal hum surrounds you. Church bells, distant laughter, the rustling of olive trees in the breeze. The spiral's journey is far from over, but tonight, you carry its light a little further. Maybe you won't survive all the spirals ahead, but tonight, you've lived its secret. And sometimes, that's enough. The quiet moments stretch like soft silk around your senses. The cobblestones beneath your horses' hooves fade into a gentle rhythm, a lullaby of history and mystery entwined. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight of centuries ease as Florence's night wraps you in its embrace. The lens, the maps, the secrets, they're whispers now, tucked safely away, waiting for the next messenger. Slow your thoughts. Let the spiral of time unwind gently. The city sleeps, and so can you. Softly, the past settles like a feather, light and serene. Good night, brave messenger.